Welcome into House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me as always is Gilbert Manzano, who does it for Sports Illustrated MMQB. And Gilbert, we're here to preview this a rematch of a of Rams Eagles. Now we do it in the divisional round. There's a lot to get into with this matchup, a lot to be excited about. I know a lot of people are already discrediting the Rams. They're already putting the Eagles in the NFC title game. But just wanted to get this started by just saying, like, what or asking you, how do you see this matchup and what intrigues you about it, just off the top?
Yeah, I'm surprised that you're seeing a lot of heavy Eagles support. I thought that was a little split. I feel like the Rams usually get a lot of support because of Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, and I've seen some ESPN analysts and NFL networks give some love to the Rams. But you're right, Victor, maybe not too much. It is a daunting challenge and a 6 point game when it comes to the betting line. It's not a 3 point game, it's not a 1 point game. So that tells you how they feel about the Eagles, especially in Philly. That's probably the biggest part that you're going on the road, hostile environment. You got your butts whooped at home at SoFi Stadium. You had to deal with Saquon Barkley, who went out for over 300 yards total purpose, 255 on the ground. So when you think about that, it's a difficult uphill battle. But the thing I don't want to focus too much on last week, but the thing that really sticks out to me is the performance on Monday night in Arizona against Minnesota. I'm like, all right, that's a real team right there. That's a Super Bowl contender team. So when I put that together and what I've seen before in the regular season, what I saw against Buffalo, what I saw against Minnesota the first time, what I saw playing the 49ers twice, in Santa Clara with your full roster, and then in September with your banged up roster. So they show these signs that they're ready to make that next jump, and they couldn't put it together completely in the regular season. But when you saw that game on Monday, especially defensively, man, the way they
Yeah.
played, it tells me, maybe the resume is not there for the regular season, but they got the ingredients to get to the Super Bowl. So to me, it feels more like a 3 point game than a 6 point game here in Philadelphia on Sunday.
Yeah, and I mean we'll get into it. We'll talk about some of the Eagles' inefficiencies. We'll talk about why they are the heavy favorites here with the 6 point favorites as they are, and rightfully so. But as Jerry Guevara says, I mean, possible snow on Sunday that might slow
Ooh,
everything down as well. And then we got NFL Mike. NFL Mike's corner here. I was at Saquon, I guess Saquon's 300 game, so he was there at that game.
yeah,
But Los Angeles Rams got after Minnesota, so
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot to get into here with this matchup. I just wanted to get your just kind of your take in terms of what I've been hearing. It's been, a lot of Eagles, which I understand, especially when you look at the matchup. They faced each other in week 12, and it wasn't even close, and we talked about it. This was a team that the Rams, both of us did not want the Rams to see in the playoffs, but I think things have changed since that game a lot. And even Kellen Moore has come out and said that today, where he says this is a completely different team, especially since right around week 14, he said. So yeah, there's a lot to get into. We'll talk about it. Delbert Salgado says Kellen Moore versus Chris Shula. Control the clock. Let Stafford pick them apart and make Philly pass. Cardi for the win. Checkmate. So we got the comments rolling already,
Yeah.
Gilbert, which is
Yes.
awesome to see. And just letting everybody know, we'll get to our latest news and notes plus storylines for both teams going into this matchup. And lastly, we'll do our game predictions. But before we do you have an engagement question for our viewers and listeners, Gilbert?
Yeah, we've been going with, what are some keys to the game here, but because NFL Mike reminded me, and I also brought it up, 300-yard game for Saquon Barkley reminds you, like, how are you going to stop that guy? How are you going to slow
Yeah.
it down? And Jerry saying, well, the snow could maybe be a factor. And, Saquon, maybe he's not like Derrick Henry where he's more of a bruising running back, but he is a pretty physical running back. Maybe he's more a finesse guy, which again, I don't want to pigeonhole Saquon Barkley, but you take any help that you could get. So if Saquon Barkley's not going on the edges like he did at SoFi Stadium in front of NFL Mike, maybe that's better. Maybe you want to have a physical game in between the tackles, snow game that could help you out. I don't know, But can you let me know in the comments what's the best way to slow down Saquon Barkley? There you go. Victor got the banner ready and going because that's probably the biggest question. Honestly, you know, that's probably the one key where I slow down. Like, hey, those Rams were really good on Monday night with the 9 sacks.
Yeah.
That's a good defense and shutting down opponents under 10 points. I think was it the 49ers, the Jets? I forget the other team they faced.
The Cardinals.
Cardinals under 10 points, 9-point average. Like, so, but then it's like, you got your butt whooped against Saquon Barkley. That was an ugly game. And like Kayla
Right.
Moore said, they were a different team since week 14. By the way, week 14, they dropped 44 points on Buffalo, and that's when everything changed. So maybe
Yep.
you that a little more, two different teams. But honestly, how can you stop Saquon Barkley? He had another 100 yards against the Packers last week too.
Yeah, and he's been awesome, and we'll talk about, how do you go about slowing him down. We have some stats out there. I did, as much research as I can get, as much stuff as to be prepared for this preview here, Gilbert. So we'll get to all that. But let me get to these comments here. We got Daniel Calderon. He says, "What up, y'all? Man, we gotta get through Philly to see the Lions. Gonna be tough." So
Hmm.
yeah, a lot of yeah, you're gonna take on the two best teams
Yeah.
if that's the case. I mean, you're gonna go through the three best teams in the NFC, I guess, record wise. You go through the Vikings, the Eagles, and the Lions to get to the Super
Ooh.
Bowl. I mean, if you do that, you I mean, you went through the
You
gauntlet there,
deserve
so
it. Yes, well
you
earned to get
deserve it.
to the damn Super Bowl, get to New Orleans. That is probably
Yeah,
the most difficult path to get to. Even if you look at the AFC, the wild card teams in the AFC weren't that good.
yeah,
No offense to Charger fans here, but they weren't really that good. So the Ravens and the Bills and the Chiefs Chiefs got a week off, but they kind of got a week off over there. So, but obviously it's gonna get hard in the division round. So yeah, those three teams right there. Don't count out the Commanders just yet.
yeah. I know.
We'll see how it plays out. But one thing I'll say, Victor, for me, also as a football fan, and I'm sure fans for the Rams, the problem that you probably get into is looking too far ahead, and it's starting to become this rivalry between the Lions and the Rams. Where I'm like, I want to see that rivalry. I want to see it
Yeah.
again. And it feels like Bengals Chiefs for a bit, where you're not a divisional rival, but you're a conference rival, where you got to get in each other's way to make the Super Bowl. And I know the Ravens and the Bills want to be a rival to the Chiefs, but they haven't beaten the Chiefs in the playoffs. So I consider the Bengals more of that. But this Lions Rams, man, starting to get that way. But obviously, you got to beat them in a playoff before you become a rival.
Yeah, and Eagles fans want to see the Lions. I mean, they weren't able to see them in the regular season, so I get it. Eagles, they want to see where they match up against the Lions. Everybody's been talking about the Lions being the best team in the NFC this season, and I mean, top to bottom, this roster, stacks up very well against the Lions. So I understand where both fan bases are coming from. So I'm with it. A couple more comments. Beating the Eagles will be difficult, but possible, says Michael Armenta. And Daniel Calderon says, see you in 2 weeks. So maybe
Ooh.
that's what he, well, we'll see. He's using Dan Campbell's words
Oh
there
yeah.
against him. So there you go. See you in 2 weeks. All right, Gilbert, let's get to Rams news and notes. Rams and Eagles news and notes here. Um, on Monday, I mean Tuesday now. I forgot. I keep forgetting that it's a short week now for the Rams. Sean McVay said on Tuesday that tight end Tyler Higbee coughed up blood during the game against the Vikings, Gilbert.
Oh,
That and he was hospitalized after the I guess during the game or after the game, but he did travel home with the team but he expects Higbee to play against the Eagles.
that's good news. I forget who was it on the broadcast, a sideline reporter that said, Sean McVay just came up to me and said Tyler Higbee's playing his butt off, and then a few minutes later, he
Yeah.
is out of the game. I think 5 catches for 58 yards. Who does the sideline reporting for ESPN? I forget already. I'm
Well, they
blank.
had two. They had why Laura Rutledge.
It might have been
Uh
her, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
and I
you're right.
forget the other lady's name. I apologize.
Yeah, we gotta do better. But
I
I
know
remember I remember her saying that on the broadcast. I'm like, yeah, he is playing freaking well. Like he's helping
yeah,
out with the blocking, being a good receiving tight end.
yeah.
And you don't think about Tyler Higbee as you do a Travis Kelsey or even the young guys like Trey McBride and Brock Bowers, but He just does so much for his 11 personnel that's why Sean McVay keeps him around. Like for
Yeah.
him, it's like this guy does everything that I need. It's maybe not elite at anything, but you do a little bit of things here and there for me to run my scheme the way I want. You're staying on this damn roster. When you come back to be healthy and ready to go, you're coming back here too to play in a playoff game. So for him, I'm sure McVay is thrilled that he's going to be somewhat available or trending in the right direction before Philly.
Yeah, he's been a warrior, Gilbert. I mentioned it before where he tried coming back. He wasn't part of that. He got hurt during that 2021 season for the Super Bowl. He tore his ACL, I believe, and then he tried coming back, or was it his Achilles? I forget which one of the two it was because I know he tore his ACL and against the Lions during the playoffs. So I think it was his Achilles then, and then he tried coming back and he wasn't able to against the Bengals in the Super Bowl. So that guy is tough as nails, man. And there's a reason why they extended him. And I just thought with the two tight ends that you saw two tight end sets, three tight end sets in this game, which we'll talk about against the Vikings. I wonder if we see a lot more of that, especially going up against this really good Eagles defense.
Yeah, and you want to have diversity on your offensive game plan because yeah, go try to go with Puka Nakua and feed them the ball. Yeah, you could do that, but you got to deal with Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, the rookies, and then C.J. Gardner Johnson, a good safety. You still got a veteran, Darius Slade. Like it's not going to be easy to get these passing yards. So if you're able to have something closer around the line of scrimmage, here you go, Higby. Make some damage, make them think twice about what you want to do in coverage, have a good running game with Kyron Williams. You got to play keep away. You don't want to have Saquon Barkley out there wearing down your very young defense. And, again, these are two different teams, but is this a better team defensively against the run? I'm not sure. They haven't, but the last time they faced a good offense, they got lit up by 42 points too. The Buffalo
Yeah.
Bills and James Cook had a good way against them. So, is this run defense, fixed, or they avoided good running games? The 49ers running game wasn't that great. There was, no CMC. You mentioned the Cardinals. Like I know, I think James Conner played
He
or
was
didn't. I
hurt.
forget.
Remember,
It
he
was
got hurt in the game
yeah,
previous
he
against
wasn't
Carolina.
100%. And then the
Yeah.
Jets are the Jets, and then I honestly lost track of them, but they're not good. And then obviously Minnesota couldn't do anything on the ground. Maybe that's better reflection there for the Rams defense, but I thought that was more about the pressure and then taking away the pass where they couldn't really get anything going anyways in a 10-point deficit. So again, maybe I'm moving the goalposts for the run defense, but you really haven't been tested since that last game against Saquon.
Yeah, and I thought Gary Klein asked Sean McVay a really good question in terms of, you were able to make changes to your defense in terms of how to stop Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Can you do the same thing with the run game? And I thought, he McVay's answer was really good because he was like, "Look, you got to change things around depending on your opponent. We know what the Eagles like to do offensively now I think having faced the Eagles also is an advantage to Sean McVay because now he knows, and to Chris Shula because now they've seen what they're capable of. So I think this is where the rematch is going to be a lot closer. And like I said, we'll get into why we think that that'll be the case in this matchup. And then we're talking about weather. That's also a big thing too.
Yeah, and I think this defense travels. They did
Yeah.
well on the road. We saw that. I know it's not snow, but it was a kind of rainy, cold game in Thursday Night Football against the 49ers. They went to New York. They
Yep.
went to New England. They played well in New Orleans. These are not the best opponents that you're facing, but I really was impressed with the defense the last 6 weeks here, or maybe after that Buffalo game. They won that game, but they also gave up over 450 yards to Josh Allen there, so and 40 points. Maybe to them that's when they woke up a little bit. So that's a good thing about having a good defense. On the road in a playoff game, hostile environment. Especially if your offense can get it going. You could just lean on them. All right, you got a couple bad series. Let's do our thing here and maybe frustrate Jalen Hurts a little bit. So this matchup, man, there's just so
Yeah.
many games within games, and you could talk about Vic Fangio with the DBs. They have a good front too. I don't want to overlook their front with Jalen Carter. Nolan Smith. He's a young edge rusher who did great against the Packers. I thought. You got Joshua Sweat. They don't really have a lot of star players, but they have a good group there. And then obviously you got Jordan Davis too, and the Kobe thing got hurt unfortunately, but Zach Vaughn was an All Pro. He was. Did it come out
Yeah,
already? Yeah, All Pro came out.
yeah.
Yeah, he was. So that's a good front too. I know people are not talking about them as much because the DBs are doing better, but that's going to be a very difficult defense.
Yeah, and well, yeah, there's a lot to get into. I have so much for you here, Gilbert, that you're getting a little ahead of myself here, but it's okay. I mean, it's a great matchup to talk about. Last thing I have for you in terms of news and notes, Maybe also said that the team plans to practice all week in Woodland Hills before traveling to Philadelphia on Saturday. So it looks like everything's gonna go right as as scheduled, and then they'll fly out there on Saturday. And then just in terms of the injury report, you got a Kilo Witherspoon with the thigh injury, offensive lineman Alaric Jackson with the chest, nose tackle Bobby Brown the third with the shoulder, and then those were did not practice. They did not practice today. That's what it would have been had they had a practice. And then limited was tight end Tyler Higbee with the chest. Now with the Eagles, you just had a bunch of IR rests with Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Cam Gurgens, the center, the tackle Jordan Mailata, and defensive end Josh Sweat. But there is a little concern there with AJ Brown's knee, Gilbert. They are kind of taking it slow with him. So it's something to kind of monitor as the week goes by.
Yeah, he had one catch for 10 yards, and people gave him crap, which I was surprised he got a lot of crap for the reading the book on the sideline. I'm like, he's been doing it all year supposedly, and they've been winning games. I got no problem with it. He's trying to find his piece during the game, but yeah, I saw that he was getting a lot of crap for that, and he had to address it today in his interview. But it's a playoff game. I expect him to
Yep.
be out there, even if he's
Mhm.
not 100%. And maybe that's the reason why him and Hurts weren't on the same page. And maybe it wasn't about the whole long season, how they haven't been on the same page. I remember there was a
Yeah.
throw on 3rd and 1 where they took a deep shot to AJ Brown, and Jalen Hurts, either he missed them or AJ Brown wasn't fully up to speed. So I mean, that was part of it too. So it's a big injury, but the thing, like I mentioned, and we're going to talk about, you got a good running game and a good defense there for
Yeah.
the Eagles, and that sometimes gets enough for you to win a game too.
Yeah, I mean, it was it. He must have felt really good because he was reading a book on the sideline. I know I saw your teammate there at Sports Illustrated found the author of that book and had a nice story about it.
Yeah, I was surprised how quickly he got him. Connor Orr is a avid book reader, so maybe he has connections in the, I guess, the publishing landscape for books there, and he found the number. I don't know how he did. I gotta ask him when I see him. But yeah,
Yeah.
Jim Murphy's Inner Excellence. If you want to go get it, maybe it's hard to get right now because it became number 1 on Amazon.
Yeah. So shout out to AJ Brown for plugging that book during the game against the Packers. That was the one catch. What was it for 10 yards? But he got a lot of the headlines because of the he was reading the book on the sidelines. Which, I mean, he had a big game against the Rams, the first matchup. So he'll be someone to keep an eye on, especially for like we said, the Rams defense hasn't faced a team like this outside. Like I said, the Vikings, they gave them, they gave them a lot of problems in terms of what they showed with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. This is a complete different animal here, just because you have the one of the best offensive lines and a really the best running back in the NFL right now. But talking about this team, Gilbert, they, kind of starting off the storylines here and moving over. Sorry, uh, pressed the wrong thing there. Let me get to the Rams and Eagles storylines, and let's start off with the fact that the Eagles, as we said, they dominated the regular season matchup at SoFi, dominating the trenches on both sides of the ball. Uh, and the Eagles offense, as we said, that's been our our question is how do you go about slowing down Saquon Barkley? And there's a lot here with this team because, as we said, it's a completely different animal in terms of you have one of the best offensive lines in football. You have Saquon Barkley, and then you have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and then you have Dallas Goedert to deal with. But one of the big issues that we saw against the Packers for this Eagles team was the fact that the passing game continues to struggle. Now, is it more of them just being conservative with Kellen Moore? Because hey, when you are a team that leads the league in time of possession and you lead the league in rushing attempts because you have Saquon Barkley, is that just something that happens and that's the way you're winning games, or is there something else to why this passing game continues to struggle?
Yeah, I guess if you want to look at it from glass half full point of view, like, yeah, you're running the football a lot. It's going to be difficult for your quarterback to get into a rhythm. I think that happened a lot to the Packers and Jordan Love, and he just never got into a rhythm. They were running the football a lot with Josh Jacobs, and to me, I thought it hurt them. But for this Eagles team, I don't think so, and I actually don't even care that they're a run heavy team with Saquon Barkley. He's such a special back, and you also have a championship caliber defense with a special offensive line. Like, these are the ingredients you need to win a Super Bowl. They have it. It's just, what if you run into the Detroit Lions who have a better offense and they're dropping 30 points on your team here? We saw Jaden Daniels, pick apart this
Yep.
Eagles defense. They're great, but they could get beat every now and then. I fully believe in the Lions offense to do that to them. It's just I don't think the Rams offense could do what the Lions do. Like, let's be real. For the number one offense in the NFL this year is probably the Detroit Lions. They broke a lot of records. So, from that point, maybe it's more about matchups, Vic. And the thing I worry about here with this Rams defense is, yeah, Hurts maybe doesn't get the passing attack going, but you still got Saquon Barkley, you still got the
Yeah.
offensive line, you still got a mobile quarterback, and you still got the option plays. Okay, where's Hurts gonna go? And then he has extra time because he has all these all pros on the offensive line. So
Yeah.
the thing that I'm going to really look forward to here is, all right, defensive line, you're not young anymore. It's the playoffs. How special are you? You're not facing the Vikings offensive line with Cam Robinson at left tackle, who had to step in for Christian Darrisaw. If Darrisaw's in that game, he's an all pro caliber left tackle. Maybe things don't go the way they went on Monday night. So the offensive line is going to improve. The running back is going to improve. You have some great weapons too. There's no Justin Jefferson, but AJ Brown's still pretty good out there. So to me, it's like, can you stop the mobility? Because what I saw from Jalen Hurts in that third quarter when he got Dallas Goedert that nice stiff arm touchdown against the
Yeah.
Packers, he started moving to his left a little bit, and he started opening the passing. And here's Devontae Smith, a couple to Devontae. Here's Dallas Goedert. I think Nick Sirianni said that Hurts got an audible on that play and gave it to Dallas Goedert. So that's what he brings to the table: playmaking ability, thinking on the fly, and he's been to a Super Bowl. So to me, I don't want to make too much of a big deal about the passing attack because everything I just listed, good player, good coaching, and good options to help him out. But say the Rams offense is doing that well. Say Stafford is dealing like he did on Monday, 11 of 12 for 124 yards and a touchdown. Kyron Williams is doing work here. Now you got to play catch up and you get away from
Hmm.
the running game. So it could be a stalemate early in the game where nobody's scoring points. That's going to give Jalen Hurts more time to get going. So to me, I'm not going to fully say that's a weakness right there because of what he brings to the table with the mobility and the creativity. So again, this is one of those things we got to see how the game plays out. But I do worry for the Rams defense to have to deal with something else that's, offensive line, Saquon, and then the mobility of Jalen Hurts too.
Yeah, and I thought that was a big thing in that first matchup. I mean, Jared Burrs couldn't contain the edge, and Jalen Hurts just kept going to the outside, and he was able to either pick up yards or be able to be able to complete passes on the run because of it. The other thing too is where they present problems for this Rams defense is the RPO with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. I think you're gonna have to try to hit Jalen Hurts. Now, I'm not saying you need to be dirty about it, but you need to make sure that he feels you. We saw what they did to Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold started feeling those hits, midway through the second quarter. And so if you're going to play the RPO, then you need to take advantage of it. If you're that, especially if you see that cheetah package that the Rams are playing, you need to take advantage of it. But like you said, I mean, even as much as people are making a big deal out of the passing struggles, I think part of it too is the fact that the Eagles just rely on running the ball. Why are you gonna rely on passing the ball when you have a top three offensive line and a number one running back there to lead you? So I mean, we saw what they did to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they just pretty much ran the clock out in the fourth quarter in one drive. Gilbert, I think they killed like I want to say 12 to 15 minutes off the clock, just in one drive, and so that's the capability that they have. And then you add the tush push as well, where if they get 8 yards or 9 yards, they can convert a third down with the tush push. So this offense creates a lot of problems for the Rams, but the fact that they've seen them now, especially the last two seasons, they know where they can attack this offense.
Yeah, and to your point on the, the tush push and getting yards, near the sticks here, like it's not just third down, it's also fourth down because they're gonna go for it, and that
Yeah,
if you don't get it and they don't get off the field, that's pretty deflating for a defense, especially a young defense on the road. And I want to see how that turns out. If you're not able to get a couple stops here and there, how does that do for your mental psyche there? So it's a lot of challenges. Like it's not pretty. They don't really play flashy, but that's playoff football. Sometimes it gets a little ugly. If you're the more physical team, if you have a good crowd behind you, which they will in Philadelphia, like maybe it turns out to be this ugly 19 13 game, and Philly wins. Who knows? But that's why you got to have a good pass rush to mix it up and change the game plan. And the Rams have it. And
yep,
I think you're onto something when you're saying this Rams defense is seeing this team for the second time. Maybe that could benefit them. They got five pass rushers to help you out, and a good secondary that's now they're becoming ball hogs, and they're becoming pass rushers too. So maybe they build off of what they did against Minnesota, and that could really throw off Jalen Hurts. That's the one thing we haven't seen. They've been winning so much, and they've been riding a defense and a good offensive line and a good running game, and they haven't really got hurt. Like the Commanders game it came out of nowhere. Like, oh crap, we were up by 10 points, 14 points, and they came
hmm
back out of nowhere and they won that game late. Oh, and there was no Jalen Hurts too, so it maybe caught them off guard there. But I'm trying to think, when was their last loss before that? Was that the Buccaneers
Well,
game?
the two losses that they had this season, the Eagles, in terms of was the Bucks and the Commanders, and both of those losses they gave up over 30 points. Those are the only two games where they gave up over 30 points, and both of them were losses. The one to the Commanders, and I get it. Jalen Hurts got hurt in that game, and then as well with with the Buccaneers, it was early in the season, but the Buccaneers have had their number the last couple of years, so I understand that as well.
Yeah, and then you lost that late lead to the Atlanta Falcons. So the Falcons game and the Buccaneers, I don't really care about it because like if we're talking about the Rams being a different team, this is a different team too for the Eagles. When the Eagles were in a bye week, they went on that run there. So that Commanders game is the only time they really lost. But even that one kind of feels like, all right, they felt a little lucky. They caught them off guard. So it's been a while since we've really seen this team get beat up. But say a defensive line does beat up Jalen Hurts, and like, hey, your passing struggles, they're now a problem because you can't deal with that pressure. It could
hmm
definitely change the story. I'm not saying that's going to be easy. I know there's a lot of Eagles fans in the comments. You're probably laughing it up like, yeah, these nobodies here going against our all-pro offensive lineman, left tackle, center, guard,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
Lance Johnson. Yep.
They're stacked, and they got a 2K running back and Saquon Barkley. So a lot needs to happen. Also, your defense needs to, give a few points early on, and that's a great defense for this to happen. But you win football games with what the Eagles have, but you also win games with having a lot of pass rushers hitting you in waves with the defensive front, and the Rams have that. So to me, that's why I'm giving them a good chance here.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, the Eagles' winning recipe this season has been winning the time of possession. So you need to win that if you're the Rams, because they're going to run the ball. As we said, that's their bread and butter. They're going to want to run the ball, and then and you need to get ahead of the Eagles. I thought the Packers did the right thing in getting the ball first, but they fumble. Even though I for sure thought that Nixon recovered that fumble, but they didn't give him the ball back, and then the Eagles took advantage of it. And then next thing you knew, they when they score first, it's kind of hard because you're playing from behind, and then that allows that defense to kind of just settle in. And so that's going to be a big key for this Rams team. And like I said, after the Vikings win, if I'm the Rams, I I try to win whether I win the toss or not. I still want to get the ball first, and you're going to want to try to score first because that way you can put a pressure on this Eagles offense.
Yeah, and it's a lot of unknown here, and it's a very good team. And I'm thinking about scenarios for how the Rams could get through, but who knows? Maybe Matthew Stafford has a better performance in the second game against them, and we saw what Jaden Daniels did to Vic Fangio's defense. Matthew Stafford is certainly capable of doing that, especially in the playoffs, and he did it to Brian Flores' defense. And I think I told you, Victor, after the victory on Monday night for the Rams, like he's gonna face two of the toughest defensive corners in the NFL back to back, Brian Flores, Vic Fangio. But if there's one quarterback you feel confident doing it, there's probably two or three in the NFL, and Matthew Stafford is one of them. So,
Yeah.
we're over here trying to go off a regular season and what these teams have done. Like, they're going to change in the playoffs here,
Oh yeah.
and if people are confident, and Rams fans are saying, look at our front, 9 sacks here, Jared Verse, Defensive Player of the Year, better than Quinion Mitchell. They're probably saying that, and then
Yeah.
Eagles fans are saying offensive line, best in the NFL, best running back. So it's best on best here, and I can't wait for this game.
Yeah, and I mean, these are two different defensive coordinators, and Brian Flores and Big Fangio. Brian Flores loves to blitz. Big Fangio doesn't. I mean, they the Eagles use their front four to be able to create pressure, and then those their secondary is what forces turnovers here. You look at, you mentioned Zach Bond, you talked about CJ Gardner Johnson, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. I mean, what Eagles have forced 15 turnovers in their last 4 games. They forced at least one turnover in 6 straight games and 11 in their last 12, while the Rams have only turned it over on offense twice. So if you're the Rams, you need to make sure you don't turn the ball over in this game. The other thing too, Gilbert, was the Rams allowed 5 sacks in that first matchup to the Eagles, to the Eagles only allowing one. So, I mean, you need to protect Matthew Stafford as well. But kind of switching over to the Eagles defense, Gilbert. As I noted earlier, the Phillies front seven is completely has dominated the Rams offensively during that week 12. But two guys that were really good in that game, Brandon Graham and Nakobe Dean, they're not going to play in this game. I mean, Nakobe Dean let the Eagles in tackles. He got a sack. Brandon Graham turned into his old self in that game. He did suffer that injury that cost him the rest of the season in that game as well. But as you said, they're loaded everywhere on that defense, Gilbert. Do you think that the Bucks and the Commanders, kind of like what they did during the season, did they show a blueprint to beat the how you go about beating this Eagles defense?
I think the Commanders did a little bit. I remember Brian Robinson's running the football pretty well. So you gotta be balanced, and you gotta create plays. And obviously Matthew Stafford is not as mobile as Jaden Daniels. I remember I know the Eagles secondary had trouble with that. Like, okay, should we go attack the guy moving around the pocket on the run to stop him from getting the first down, or do we just risk leaving our guys open for him to hit them with the shot there as a passer? It was a lot of thinking and not knowing what to do, and that kind of hurt a young secondary, I thought, when you have two rookies there. And the Matthew Stafford is a lot more savvy, with the mental aspect, but he's not as mobile as Jaden Daniels. So, maybe you take away from what the Buccaneers did a little more. Baker Mayfield is more of a pocket passer who's still able to extend, but he's always going to look to pass. So, you got to have some great routes too to break away. Like, yeah, you're buying time here, but Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are two of the best at doing that. Maybe you do more stuff with the jet sweeps and the motions, the pre-snap motions to confuse a couple of rookies there. It's hard to do because they don't play like rookies, and maybe you try to go at Darius Slay, he's a little older cornerback, or you go after the safeties here. So I think there was a play where Quinion Mitchell got caught for a DPI. So
Yeah,
you never
against the
know.
Packers. Yeah, they went after him. The Packers
Yeah,
did.
That's his first playoff game, which I liked,
Yeah.
and it didn't work out. So do you do that with Matthew Stafford? So it's not gonna be simple stuff, but one thing that we do know, whenever you're getting Puka Nacua going early in games, it tends to be a good day for the offense. And he didn't really get going too much in against the Vikings. He wasn't needed to, but getting that 27-yard catch on the first play of the game really set the tone too when you think about it.
Yeah, there's a lot. I really like the quick game that they used against the Vikings, and I get it. I mean, they were coming after him, so they made sure that, like I said, they had, 2, 3 tight end sets at times in that game. I thought Tyler Higbee was huge in that first drive. You're gonna have to use some 12 and 13 personnel in this game to go up against this really good front that the Eagles have. I mean, you go down the line with the names. I mean, Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams. They're just gonna keep coming, and that's part of it. That front four is what causes a lot of their pressure, and that way they're able to sit back in that big Fangio defense and be able to, they wait for you to make the mistake. They don't try to go and force it. And so that's the other thing too. And we talked about it. I somebody brought it up, and I had to go back and check it out. But if you look at that game, how that game started, Gilbert, the Rams got the ball first. They drove down the field. They got to the 16. Kyron Williams fumbles the ball, and then the Eagles take the ball, and then they kick a field goal, and then the Rams got the ball back and they scored again. So they can move the ball on this Eagles defense. It's just, can you sustain it? Can you not make mistakes? Because this team is not only well coached on both sides of the ball, but they have talent everywhere.
Yeah, and scoring another opening drive touchdown like that would really set the tone there. And like we mentioned, the Jalen Hurts passing struggle won't be a problem until you're playing from behind. Until you're able to say, "Okay, Saquon, we're sorry. We got to go and push the ball a little bit here." He's starting to fall a little bit out of the game plan. It's more opportunities for the, you know, for your guys to go against these secondary guys who are so talented. But when you're doing different routes and doing different things, you start thinking, "Okay, what are they gonna do here? What are they gonna do there?" So when you're getting 3 and out, like you're not seeing much here.
Yeah.
You're not getting tired on the field. So I think for Matthew Stafford, to put pressure on them and then put pressure on Jalen Hurts at the same time, with maybe you get another 10-point lead. That's what happened against the Minnesota Vikings and Sam Darnold. You get a 10-point lead. We saw Chris Shula dial up the blitzes to put pressure on him. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts or Sam Darnold, but you take away more things from your opponent when you're playing from ahead. And I think it's gonna be critical for Matthew Stafford to do that. And then we know about Kyron Williams and his fumbles there, but he's also an excellent player who's a touchdown machine. Maybe for him, it's kind of a little bit of a comeback revenge game. He remembers how poorly he did in that one, and he wants that game back.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a tough it's gonna be a tough game for, and I know a lot of Philly fans are in our comments here, and I love it. I mean, that's what Philly fans are known for. But some of the stuff, I mean, I've been listening to some of the Philly fans this week, and it seemed like the two games they won, Carolina, when they beat the Carolina Panthers, they were pissed that, how they played in that game. And then you turn around, and that performance against the Packers, they weren't happy. So I don't know where all this optimism is coming from. I mean, I guess it's the way Philly fans think, and that's okay. I mean, we welcome that, and let us know how you guys feel about it. But to me, these are two well coached teams that have a lot of good talent on there, and I get it. Like, a lot of people are going to look at that last matchup, and they're going to say, "Yep, the 6 point favorites are going to win this game," and let's wrap it up, and let's head over to Eagles and Lions in the NFC title game. But we know how the NFL works, and there's always upsets, Gilbert.
Yeah, especially if it's a close game. I guess the game it's in the fourth quarter. The game gets a little tight. In these coaches, more under the spotlight. And if you want to talk about Nick Sirianni and Sean McVay, the arrow favors Sean McVay in that spot there over
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni. So maybe that's where you want to go. Take it to the fourth quarter. Who's the most prepared team? Who wins situational football? All these these all pros and pro bowlers, that goes out the way when you don't know what you're doing in the fourth quarter in the 2 minute drill, things like that. So we could be talking about scenarios and matchups all day, but if you get to that fourth quarter and you don't know what you're doing, that pretty much seals the game there. Especially too, like a lot like that Commanders Buccaneers game that was going back and forth in the 5 minute mark. Sometimes it just comes down to who has the ball last, and the Commanders did, and then went on a field goal. So it could maybe go that way, or maybe it doesn't because the Eagles are just that dominant. Like I'll say this about the roster, like they have more weapons, they have better depth. They have Super Bowl experience too. They didn't win it, but they went to the
Yeah.
Super Bowl against the Chiefs, and I thought Jalen Hurts played a great game against Patrick Mahomes there. So all these ingredients that we talk about for the Rams, I feel like the Eagles have more of it. But when you have a good front like that and you have a Super Bowl winning quarterback, you're gonna have a chance on the road all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. I get it. Like that's the other thing. I mean, I keep seeing Philly fans saying that it's going to make a difference the fact that they're playing on the East Coast. And it's going to be bad weather. Sean McVay has a 17-6 record in Eastern time games too. I mean, the two of the games that come to mind in terms of him going to the that he's lost lately was that Lions game, the two Lions games I should say, the one in the playoffs and then the game one, and then you also had that Ravens game where it was a classic game last year, one of the best games that we saw last season. So I understand where Eagles fans are coming from, but like I said, just you understand that this is a team that's won a Super Bowl with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, and for Ram fans, they know what they have in this team, especially since the bye week. There's a reason why they've been able to go on a winning streak, and as we've also mentioned, this defense has turned a corner since facing that Philly team, and so we'll see. We'll see if they make the adjustments. If not, it's going to be a long day for the Rams.
Yeah, so it's a lot to think about, and we'll see what happens, but I know people are fighting in the comments, and it's interesting, but it
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
more to talk about, more to break down because people are making great points. So I feel like
yeah,
we should just go off of some of these comments, but
yeah.
yeah, because I feel like we discussed a lot of these scenarios here already.
Yeah, I mean, ESG says Eagles have a history of choking in the playoffs. So, I mean, I love this. I love seeing this. Says Eagles it's a Philly thing here. It says Eagles will send you home because they have an elite quarterback. I don't know about
Ooh,
an elite
oh, I don't know.
quarterback. They
That's
do have an elite running back. The number one defense led by Big Fangio. I agree with that. Eagles own the Rams. The Eagles blew out the Rams 37-20 in week 12. Yeah, and then the year before that, it was the team that was I think most of the players. I don't think Matthew Stafford played in that game the year before that, or he was hurt. I forget what happened in that game, but I understand. Like I said, those are regular season games. We've seen Sean McVay turn things around in the playoffs. We've seen Matthew Stafford is what 5-1 as a Rams quarterback in the playoffs as well. So he's got like 15 touchdowns and no interception. So I mean, I get it.
Yeah, and I rather have Matthew Stafford than Jalen Hurts, but everything
Yeah,
else that comment mentioned, I
yeah,
definitely favor Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts has been interesting, man. He didn't really play that well throughout the season, and he wasn't needed to play that well either. So it's kind of like, do we knock him for that? And we also think about last year when they fell apart from 10-1. So I don't know. To me, he's more. I think he's a top 10 quarterback. I don't know, he's elite, but he's like in that back end of the top 10 or top 12. He's a good quarterback who has poise and he's mobile, could take a few shots down the field, but he's not gonna pick you apart. He's not a pocket assassin. And to me, I favor Matthew Stafford for that. So, again, I don't know how the game script's gonna go.
yeah.
Situational football. You could win with a mobile quarterback nowadays, but Patrick Mahomes wins a lot from the pocket too, and he's won Super Bowl. So to me, that's where I do favor Matthew Stafford from that standpoint.
Yeah, and I think the Rams have the better coach and quarterback duel. I mean, Nick Sirianni, yeah, he has a great winning percentage, but he lost the Super Bowl and they almost fired him after the collapse last season. So he still has a lot to prove. He's out there fighting with Philly fans too. So I know some Philly fans have turned on Nick Sirianni. So I get it. Even Ram fans haven't been happy with Sean McVay, so it goes both ways with both of these fan bases. But um, there's this comment here from Warmonger 8891 YT says, "Dude saying stack the box against us." LMAO Saquon Barkley ran for both of his 70 plus TD runs against an A box, and so please stack it. And it's funny you mentioned this because Sean McVay was asked about this, and he said, "Yeah, we stacked the box on him on both of these runs," and he's like, he pretty much acknowledged that there'll be changes. You're not going to see the same kind of defense in this game. So, and then you're also playing outside. Guess what's going to happen when you're playing in a dome? You can score a lot more points. This is going to be a low scoring game. It's going to be a physical game. It's which team can out physical the other one, and I get it. Philly is used to playing at home at the link, and they know what it takes to win there. I mean, we've seen they wrote that to a Super Bowl playing at the link and having the number one seed. So I don't take that away.
I honestly think the only way to stop Saquon Barkley is by having your offense score points early and often, playing keep away, controlling the time of possession, having these long drives to keep, you know, not to have a game script going that the Eagles wanted to go. So maybe Sean McVay's thinking from that standpoint. If our offense is playing better,
Yeah,
there's no fumbling, they're finishing drives, they're putting points here. Well, Jalen Hurts, what can you do? You're playing from behind. And that's the thing. We haven't really seen it. Even in that Commanders loss, they were playing from ahead a lot until the end, and it was Kenny Pickett anyways. It wasn't even Jalen Hurts. So uh,
yeah,
I want to say, what can you do here to step up for your team for AJ Brown? And we've seen it. It's just we haven't seen it in
yeah,
a long time. So to me, that's probably the best way, man. Like play keep away. You
yep,
know, I think what was it? Maybe the Commanders Buccaneers game. It was like 35 to 20 24 minutes. I'm like, man, when you dominate the time of possession like that, and you extend the game, like even if you don't make it a shootout and it's like this, 23-20 game, and maybe the Eagles only have like, two possessions in the third quarter, maybe one in the second quarter. Like sometimes these are the games that you're just waiting to get to the fourth quarter, and now it's close. The game is
yeah.
tight. Maybe they screw it up on their end, like because they're feeling the pressure. Like you just don't want to have Saquon run on you all day, and maybe that's the best defense by having your offense help you out.
Yeah, and that's why I said that I thought Saquon should have been in the MVP conversation because you look at the stats. I mean, they he led the league in carries this season. Part of the reason they won all these games was because they control time of possession. We're going back to old school football here. If you can control the time of possession and your defense is good, you win games in the playoffs. And we're starting to see that with this Rams team as well. That's why I'm saying, like, we went into the playoffs saying, you specifically said, hey, the Rams are going to be one and done, like they'll win one game maybe and then that'll be it. But we both we both have flipped on this Rams team because we were critical. We said the defense has been up and down until they turn things around after that Buffalo game. And then we're like, when is the offense going to catch up? And they finally had, their best they had their best game against the Vikings. And I get it. It was the Vikings, but now you also take into account, Gilbert, and I think people are missing this as well. They had to go and play in Arizona. That was not a home game for them. That was, you had the Vikings. So I understand. And I get it. The Vikings got beat up by the Lions the week before, and they were probably still, you know, thinking about that loss. But at the same time, you have to give this Rams team, you know, the benefit of the doubt in terms of their turnaround.
Yeah, I think for me, there's two giant reasons why I said why I changed my mind from like, okay, they're pretty much a divisional team. I don't think they go further than that because I didn't think they could hang with the Lions and the Eagles of the world of the NFC. You could beat the Buccaneers, you could beat the Packers, you could beat the Vikings, you could beat what other teams are out there, the Commanders. It's just these two teams. It felt like they were on a different level, and then the defense just became dominant, and they're consistently good. Like look back, put away, that Bills game. After the Eagles game, they were different.
Yeah.
They're the reason why they won the NFC West. They're the reason why they overcame 1-4. So they're consistently dominant, and you have a deep front. One that I've said this before. This front reminds me of the one from 2017 that the Eagles had when they helped out Nick Foles. Yeah, people give Nick Foles a credit. There's a
Yep.
reason why Nick Foles won the damn Super Bowl because you
Yeah.
had Brandon Graham strip sacking Tom Brady. You're putting
Fletcher
a lot of
Cox.
pressure. Fletcher Cox was so damn good. You had good edge rushers on the outside. And you had good interior players. So that's what the Rams have. They have two.
Yeah.
You don't have Aaron Donald. You don't have an all-time great in the middle. You don't have a Chris Jones. You don't have a Daniel Hunter and a Will Anderson Jr. You don't have a Roquan Smith. But you have 5 to 6 dudes who are going to come in waves and bunches and hit you hard. You have a star in the making and Jared Verse. You have two very good defensive tackles. But I don't know where their ceiling is going to be. I don't know they're going to be Dexter Lawrence. I don't know if they're going to be like I mentioned, Chris Jones, but they're very damn good. Kobe Turner and Braden Fitz. So to me, that's why I flipped a little bit. Offensively, I'm concerned about the offense. They have their bad days and they have their slow days, and they can't score in the first quarter. And if you're starting to fall behind and you're playing into the script for the Eagles, see you later. It's just the thing about these damn Rams. I know they have an on and off switch, and I know they're capable of turning it on. I've seen it. It's just
Yeah.
there's these teams where like like Houston, and I'm like, I haven't seen it all year. You're not gonna turn it on, and they beat the Chargers, but that was more because of the defense. So there's teams I'm like, I have no faith in you turning on that little switch there. But the Rams that they did against the Vikings twice, they did it. That terrible game against the 49ers where everybody was hurt. They won that damn game somehow.
Yeah.
Even that slow game against the 49ers, they didn't get points, but they did enough to make the plays to win. And then Buffalo, obviously that worked out. The one that didn't work out was Philly. So
Yeah.
that's why it makes it hard to pick them. But they've shown me enough to say they have an on and off switch, and they have a good quarterback and a good head coach. So when you think about it, I'll put it this way: I still think they're the third best team in the NFC on paper, talent wise, regular season
Yeah.
resume. But
That's fair.
they have a damn good chance to win this game in Philly.
Yeah, and I mean, both of these teams struggle in the first quarter, Gilbert. I mean, the Rams average what 1.8 games per game in the first quarter, which is the second fewest in football. And then you have the Eagles who rank 21st with an average of 3.6 points per quarter. So I mean per game, I should say. So I mean, and then both teams scored 10 points in their first in their wild card matchup against the Vikings and the Packers. So these two slow starting teams got 10 points last week. So you never know what you're going to get in the playoffs. Honestly, it's going to be up to these coaches and how they scheme up and what they can come up with. Will weather be an issue? Yeah, of course. But I think it could either help or hurt both teams here. It can go either way. So this is going to be a really good matchup, Gilbert.
I honestly think weather does favor the Eagles more because they're the more physical team, and when you have bad elements, sometimes you got to slow it down. And I know Saquon Barkley is not as physical as Derrick Henry, but he's pretty damn good at that too. Like he's probably the most complete back in the NFL. He offers more versatility, so some that could help. Maybe the passing game helps out a little bit when you can't get going against the snow. Saquon will go out a little bit. Here's a little outlet pass, a little screen here for you. He's so good at that too. So I think from a weather standpoint, I know people are trying to find excuses maybe for the Rams or even the Eagles. I think the Eagles have that, and they're at home. They're used to that
Yeah,
environment, and you have a championship caliber defense. It's just to me, you have that front that the Rams have. Like I think people are underestimating because they don't know the names just yet, and maybe
yeah,
they're starting to figure out number 8, Jared Verse on the scoop and score touchdown, who jumped into the end zone. Who's that guy? Oh, the defensive rookie of the year. They have 5 of those people on on their defensive front.
yeah,
That's why I give them a chance, but I get it. Snow, physical, Saquon, O line. It's a daunting challenge for the Rams, though.
yeah. And I get it. I mean, I get where Eagles fans are coming from, and they should feel confident going into this game. But like I said, this Rams team has turned the corner here, and they're starting to play a lot better. And like you said, that cheetah package with Michael Hoyt, Kobe Turner's another guy people haven't heard a lot about, number 91. You have Byron Young, number 0, another guy you got to keep an eye on if you're the Eagles, and Braden Fisk, he's been great as well, number 55. So those are a lot of numbers that you're gonna have to, they were. There's a reason why I get it. It's not the same team that the Vikings are not the same team like the Eagles, and the Eagles have a lot more talent. They're well balanced, at all three faces. But this Rams team, has found something, and sometimes you can write that. We've seen it. One of the things I will say too is that the Eagles found their stride when they beat when they beat the Rams early in the season, and then they went on their low again, which we saw last season with them. They, but you need to find it again because we know how it goes in the playoffs. It's if a team goes on a run, it could take you to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that the Rams are going to go to the Super Bowl, but they've been tested now, and we'll see what happens. Especially, like I said, we both said those two games, the rainy game against the 49ers, and then going and playing the Jets on a cold weather night and coming out with victories. I thought those were big tests. They're ready for the snow if that's the case, and we'll see what happens on Sunday.
Yeah, I think the last time a surprise team kind of went on a run for the Super Bowl, it could have been the 2021 Rams when they were the 4 seed. I feel like every time
Yep.
the Chiefs win a Super Bowl, we already expected it. They're a very good team. They've won what 3 out of the last 4, the one being the Rams one. So it's been a kind of a minute before kind of a team that's not considered a top dog like the Eagles and the Lions and the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Bills are right now. I think the Rams are below that right now. But like, again, they still have a lot of guys left over from that 2021 squad. So yeah, I'll say like the Commanders and the Texans feel like they don't really have a real chance. The
Like they're
Rams,
still like a year or two away.
yeah, it's just, but the Rams have been there, and it's just
Yeah.
you don't have Aaron Donald, and you don't have Jalen Ramsey, but you have a very good front, and sometimes that helps you out. Maybe you get a couple strip sacks in here and there, and you change the game. But yeah, I'm ready to make a prediction, or
Yeah,
you want to
let's
get to some
go. Let's
comments
get
here,
to it.
whatever.
So the Rams are 6-point underdogs in this game. The over under is 51.5. I'll tell you this right now. I'm taking the under, especially if it's gonna
Mm,
snow.
yeah.
I don't see this game, being high scoring at all. So I'll tell you that. But what's the right side of this 6-point line, Gilbert?
I'll take the points here for the Rams. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I could definitely see
Yeah,
the Eagles winning this game. They're at home. They're the better physical team. They're better in these elements here. They have the more complete team. They have more depth. So I could definitely see the Eagles winning. I just don't see a blowout, and I
yeah,
see a tough matchup. And I'm taking the under for sure. That even looking at a 51.5 seems too high for me.
yeah,
And yeah, like think about it. The Eagles defense is just they're not going to give up a lot of points there. And then the Eagles offense, they can't really move up the field because they don't have a good passing attack. So what makes you think they're going to get,
yeah.
especially on a good front like the Rams? So it could definitely happen. Maybe they get to like be in the high 20s and you barely get over this one. But to me, I see a physical game. Well, I forget the score for the. Yeah, I remember now. The Commanders Bucks game felt like a high shootout, but that was 23-20 because it was such a close game,
Yep.
with long drives and a lot of pressure was built in. I could see that here too.
Yeah, and what did we say? The Eagles lead the league in time of possession, right? So they're gonna try to, they're gonna try to lean on that time of possession. They're gonna run the ball with Saquon Barkley. They're gonna try to control the clock. That's why I just think the over under here at 51.5 makes no sense for me. Give me the under here, and I like the Rams too here in terms of the point spread. I mean, you're giving me 6 points here. Rams team, like I said, Sean McVay is 17-6 in Eastern Standard Time games. He's been good going away, and I get it. They're playing in the snow, but they won ugly in games. We've seen it do against the Jets. We've seen it against the Niners. Like we they know how to play in these terrible, you know, kind of games. So like I said, I love that it's a Philly thing says the Rams don't stand a chance versus the Eagles. We'll see. I mean, like I said, I understand where Eagles fans are coming from. I love the fact that they're in our comments, but I got to give a shout out to all our Rams people, whether it's CMDR Carney, he says Burst is going to be the real dangerous when he clamps down on some of missed tackles. You have who else did we have here? I know we had Michael Armenta. He says at the end of the day, the elite QBs have rings on their fingers.
Yeah, good
That's
point.
very true. ESG, yeah, the Eagles team turned into puppies against the 49ers last year. We saw what happened there as
Mm.
well. So, and then Delbert says, Puros Cuernos 33-24 Rams. So he likes the
Whoa.
over in this game. There was a couple of other yeah, give us your game predictions, guys, whether you're Philly an Eagles fan or even a Ram fans. We want to get your give us your we have a Philly thing. He says no, that wasn't another one. Uh I thought I saw another score here, but yeah, give us your score and then we'll give you guys ours right now. All right, Gilbert, time for our game prediction.
Yeah, thank you for everybody in the comments. And I like the rivalry. I like the trash
Yeah.
talking. I like people getting hyped up for a game. I
Hopefully
like,
this turns into something the next few years. I mean, both of these teams have drafted really well. You have second year players that are making they're making good progress now. You have Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith for the Eagles. You see that secondary now with Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and then the same thing with the Rams. I think I saw today that the Rams and we talked about it, the Ram had they spent the lowest amount of money on their defense. I think it's around 30 million. So yeah, these two teams could be seeing each other for the next couple of years.
yeah, and shout out to, by the way, to Bernard Taylor. He's an Eagles fan. He saw us
Yeah,
after the Rams
he
Vikings
probably
game
brought
preview.
everybody over here, which
Yeah,
is
and that's
awesome.
good. Maybe you don't want to watch this podcast
Yeah,
24/7, but just subscribe and like, and then come back whenever the Rams play the Eagles. That'd be great. And check out
yeah,
what we do on Compass on the Beat. Compass on the Beat is our main channel. We talk all NFL, so if you can subscribe there too, look it up. Compass on the Beat. That logo on the right, yeah, or whatever, or your left, whatever it is. But yeah. Yeah, so check us out. We appreciate the new subscribers here and the bantering and the trash talking, so it's good. But now I'm gonna probably annoy more Eagles fans, and I'll say this: I didn't. If you would have asked me before the playoffs, and we're gonna say, all right, the Rams are gonna play the Eagles in a couple of weeks. I'm like, I'm gonna go with the Eagles here for sure.
yeah,
I don't see this Rams team doing anything. But then the defense really stepped up. And the last month, the defense really elevated their game. I think they're a special defense. I'm not ready to say they're an elite defense. There you go, Jorge. You definitely want to watch this podcast 24/7. Thank you. What was I saying? Yeah, definitely watch this 24/7, especially at Combos on the Beat. We have a good time there, all four of us.
yeah,
But yeah, this defense is on the rise, and they still got to work on the second there. They got to work at the linebacker position. Obviously, the Eagles defense has more weapons, but I think the Rams front is better. You got edge rushers, you got interior defensive linemen. You get a good push there. I do worry about the rushing attack a little bit, but man, if you get pressure on the quarterback and Jalen Hurts, you can get a couple fumbles here or interception here and there. It really changed the outcome, and that's why I'm gonna give him a chance here. And you just never know. Like even in a physical game where it's a little slow, like people underestimate or overlook that Puka Nacua is a physical player. Like this guy knows how to block, he knows how to do the dirty work. And man, it's difficult to keep up with a physical receiver like Puka Nacua. He's not fast, he's not athletic, he's not even the best route runner. He just has a way of making plays and getting around you. So he's physical. So I think when you have a guy like that to help out Matthew Stafford. Maybe sometimes that 1-2 game could help you out. I don't know if it's gonna really work against Big Fangio's defense, but they're also rookies over there in the divisional round. You never know. Maybe to them,
yeah.
the moment's pretty big there. So I don't feel confident. I just like the defensive front for the Rams. They're a pretty special group there, and to me, I think pass rushers make a difference. So I'm gonna go 23-20 Rams to get an upset here. I'll say a last second field goal, and then they better run out of Philly because people are not going to be happy.
Yeah, and I mean that's a quite the turnaround for you, Gilbert, because like I mentioned, like you have not been sold on this Rams team all season long, and for you to kind of turn it now, things have changed for you. So that's huge coming from the Rams too. I mean, And I've seen it too. I think for me, this is where I guess for Sean McVay, this is a big game because Big Fangio has kind of ruined a lot of his reputation. If you go back and kind of when he was the defensive coordinator with the Chicago Bears, he was the one that was the first one to really stop his offense. And then the New England Patriots took that to a Super Bowl 53 and used his game plan against Sean McVay. And then that was one of the worst times that you've ever seen Sean McVay, where they really stopped him. And we saw it again. I didn't really think that Big Fangio stopped him in this game against the Eagles. I think the Rams beat themselves in that game, and the defense just gave up a lot of big plays to Saquon Barkley. And so Sean McVay needs this game in terms of his legacy. I get it. Like he already has the Super Bowl, you know. But one of the things we've talked about and a lot of people have brought up is his record since winning the Super Bowl. He's not gone over a 500. He's 26-25 now, Gilbert. So people can stop talking about his record since winning the Super Bowl. He's also won a playoff game. And he's now 1-1 as a coach since winning the Super Bowl. Him doing this, Gilbert, will be more impressive. Taking this team and building it from scratch and being able to take this team to the Super Bowl or beating a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, who we all know is a way better in terms of talent. If he can do that, then he takes it to the next level, and everybody just pretty much says, "Hey, he is the guy." I mean, his coaching tree is the best we've seen, not only in recent time, but perhaps all time. So, um, I'm going with the Rams in this game as well, Gilbert. I've been sold on this team now, especially coming off the bye week, and what they've been able to do. Give me, I say it's 20-17. They win it on a field goal, just like Delbert said. Yeah. And to CMDR's Carney's, he says maybe has 8 playoff wins, so he's playoff tested. You're telling me that who am I taking, Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, or Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts? Give me the two guys that have the experience in the playoffs and have done it at the highest level.
Yeah, no, those are good points. When you have those two, I guess, two great players and a coach in those categories, you tend to win a lot of games. And like you mentioned, there were some rough years for Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. That one rough year was 2022, but what they've done the last 2 years has been pretty unique, and they've given themselves a lot of, I guess, obstacles and challenges and holes to climb out of, and they've done it to their credit. Maybe that makes them a little more gritty here to win in Philadelphia. Yes, Delbert, I'm finally seeing the light. I don't feel confident, and I hate that Eagles fans are probably watching the show for the first time. They probably think I'm a homer. I'm definitely
Yeah.
not a homer. But I just think that there's something that is going on with this Rams team, and when you have those ingredients where you have a quarterback like Stafford, you have a coach like McVay, you have a star wide receiver in Puka Nacua, you got a pretty productive. He's not Saquon Barkley, but he's a good running back in Kyron, and then the defense in front where you're loaded there, and then even the DBs are making plays, and that's where I'm like, oh crap, like maybe this defense might be good, and it's not just the front there. So Chris Shula's a good coach too, but I would not be surprised if the Eagles win, and because
Yeah.
you gotta still deal with that headache, that puzzle that is Saquon Barkley, and good luck with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, respect to the Eagles, man. Like they have, like I said, like about midway through when they went on that run, and especially when they beat the Rams, I said this team has the best roster top to bottom. The problem is they've started to have some injuries as well. You have, AJ Brown there limping a little bit, but we'll see. I mean, both of these teams are gonna now they face each other in the playoffs. But I wanted to get to some of these predictions. We have Moorish Blood, 32-17 Eagles. Michael Armenta has the Rams 20-17. So we have the same score there, Michael. Maybe I stole your score there. It's a Philly thing, says 35-10.
Mm.
Beyond Levels TV 34-12. I'm guessing that's the
Eagles.
Eagles there. So we'll see what happens. That's all the scores that we got from everybody. We'll see what happens. But I think this is going to be a close game, just like you said, Gilbert, and we'll see who comes out on top. We both like the Rams in this game. We're not just trying to be homers here. Like we explained why we think that in terms of why they're going to win this game, but we'll see. CMDR Carney says Rams 2, Eagles 0. Just kidding. So,
That'll be an
uh,
interesting score if that happened. I'm guessing score
y-
economy for a playoff
y-
game.
yeah, I wonder if there's ever been a 2-0 game. But I guess we'll find out if that happens. All right, Gilbert, we have said everything we needed to say. I'm actually starting to lose my voice, so I'll let you go ahead and close us out here.
Yeah, good show. Productive, lively. People in the comments going at it. Respectful. I think I saw for the most part, so that's good. A lot of confidence on both sides here. I like to see that, and hopefully we're able to offer more like in between analysis, and hopefully for Eagles fans are able to appreciate it. I know that we both picked the Rams here, so maybe they're probably like, these guys know nothing. But we
Mhm.
try to keep it fair and talk, talk both sides, what we see, draw it down the line. If you do something well, we're gonna highlight. If you do something crappy, we're gonna say it's crappy, and then we try to think about it from outside the box and see how it plays out on the field. So the more I talk about this game, the more confused I get. I'm like, actually, that and that.
Yeah,
It's like, no, they can't get past that. It's like, crap. So I'm done with these conversations. I made my pick. If I lose it, so be it. It's gonna be a close game, I feel like. But if it's a blowout, it's a blowout. I'll be surprised, but it's gonna be a good matchup. So thank you everybody for jumping on the show here and checking us out. Follow House of Horns on YouTube. Follow Compass on the Beat on YouTube. That's our brand there, Compass on the Beat. We have House of Horns. We have What's Up Boats. Follow What's Up Boats too for Chargers. You never know. The Eagles could play the Chargers next year. Maybe I don't know. I lost track of the opponents there, but it could be fantasy football. Maybe you want to have no, I don't know. I shouldn't. Maybe you want to have Justin
some best
Herbert, but
ball or
yeah, but
way
not right
too
now.
early.
But yes, you could have some good insight there from those guys. But Fernando and Dan do a good job. Check us out on Compas on the Beat. For Compas, that's the show that I really enjoy. We talk a lot of crap to each other, but we share some good football knowledge there. So subscribe, like, be a compa, tell a compa about Compas on the Beat. Time to get going. Game time on Sunday afternoon here on the Pacific time, 12 p.m. noon, 3 p.m. out there on the East Coast. May the best team win. But it's time to get going. Ya nos vamos. Pues, vámonos.